Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson FC, welcome to the channel. This is my performance analysis of Manchester United 4, West Ham United 0. This is what my take on how United performed is, the areas that I think we've done well, the areas that I think we've got for improvement. It's really difficult to do as an outsider to really get an objective look at how a team has performed, because proper professional performance analysis should be done in conjunction with the coaching staff and the manager, in conjunction with the in-game objectives that a team wants to achieve. So there's no point in us looking at something if the team is doing the complete opposite on the pitch. So we could look at how Stoke, for instance, keep possession, or how Barcelona go direct, and how many balls they get forward from the goalkeeper and stuff. It doesn't work like that. You kind of need to know the team objectives. Obviously, I know Manchester United quite well from watching them, but only from an outsider's perspective. So what I'm doing is kind of like a little bit of guesswork. So it won't be bang on, and I'm trying to see what we tried to do after the fact, rather than knowing what Jose Mourinho asked for in his, pretty much team talk and all the rest of that sort of stuff, and whatever the coaches worked on. Now, performance analysis is generally done with a little bit of scouting in the front end, so you would identify 3 or 4 things that you thought West Ham was going to do well, and then Jose Mourinho would typically find 3 or 4 things to counter that, or 3 or 4 things where we think that we could hurt them. So performance analysis really needs to be done in conjunction with a bit of scouting, and as the season goes on, that's hopefully what I'm going to start trying to deliver to this channel, if this is what you guys want. So in my preview, rather than just talking about what I think the starting 11 is, I'm going to try and identify 3 things that I think Manchester United can do to hurt a team, starting this week with Swansea, and 3 things that I think that Manchester United need to look out for that Swansea do. And then following my analysis afterwards, I'm going to evaluate how we did based on those things. Now, again, that's me as an outsider. I have no influence, clearly, on whether any of that stuff comes off, so it may or may not really work out like that. But like I said, hopefully you guys find this a little bit interesting. It's a good little exercise for me. It helps me really get my thoughts down in a really objective way about the game. So let me know in the comments if you enjoy it, and if there's anything else that you would like me to explain. Again, stick that in the comments. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the formation. This is how we lined up. We lined up with a 4-2-3-1, and I will admit, from the 3 formations that I expect Manchester United to use this season, it's the one that I like the least. The reason I dislike it is pretty simple. Our best footballer is Paul Pogba. I don't think there's many people would argue with that. Pogba gets forward in a midfield 3. In a 2, he's shackled. Even with Matic yesterday, he wasn't free. Here's the heat map, as you can see, versus West Ham. In a 4-3-3 from last season, you can see how Pogba actually affected the game a lot further forward. Here it is in a 2 against West Ham this season. And here's Matic's heat map. As you can see, they're quite similar. Let's go back to the Pogba one. You can see how similar these heat maps are. That's what you get when you play these players in a holding 2. Let's go back to the 3. As you can see, when Paul Pogba was played against West Ham in a 3 last season, left-hand side, you can see his touches are a bit more further up the pitch. This allows Paul Pogba to impact the game better in that final third, and that's where you get the best out of Paul Pogba. So for this one main reason, I don't like 4-2-3-1, because I think it blocks off the natural route that Paul Pogba would use when you've got a number 10 in the middle of the pitch there. I think this blocks off what Paul Pogba can do. It's an area of the pitch that he likes to ghost into, and I think when you bring him back, as you can see, his touches was very similar to Matic, and if you want Matic to do that defensive work, you can't really do it when they're on the same line as a pair of number 6s, even if one's got the mentality like Pogba does, where he wants to get forward, and one's more defensive the way Matic is. The nature of this formation doesn't really mesh with them too well, so I think it doesn't really suit our style of play. A midfield 3 is what's best for us, I think, and ultimately that might even lead to a midfield 5, but I don't really like the 4-2-3-1 at home against teams that you're supposed to beat. I think Paul Pogba needs to be a little further up the pitch. So what did we do well? Well, counters, basically, and we've seen this all pre-season. It's clearly something that Jose Mourinho is trying to implement at Manchester United, counter-attacks. Now, the opening goal really sums up exactly what we're doing here. Matic wins the ball in the middle of the park. It falls to Rashford, who carries on driving it forward. But the key part of the move for me, and this is absolutely beautiful, when Rashford cuts inside, notice when he cuts inside, Matic has followed the ball up, and he's come for the overlap on the left-hand side. You've got Mickey T on the far right over there. and you've got, well, Mickey T's completely unmarked on that far side. You've obviously got Rashford steaming through the middle. The ball Rashford plays is seriously sensational. It's the perfect weight, it's the perfect place, it's the perfect distance. Every single thing about it is bang on. And Lukaku's not even close to this ball. Reeder's got to do better from covering from there, to be honest. Lukaku gets across, and it's an unbelievable finish. It's insane what he manages to do on it. Doesn't take a single touch. He just knocks it past Hart, and it's clinical. He can't go to the opposite cheek from here. He can only go near post. And to get it in at the near post, he basically has to slam it off the post, which is what he does. 1-0, one shot, one kill for Romelu Lukaku. Now, later in the game, there's another example here. This one, you can see Paul Pogba wins a header in the box. It falls to Juan Mata. It hits Rashford on the back of his heel. And fortunately, it falls over the front of him. He then takes off on a sprint. He's changed of direction as soon as he gets into the box. Takes out them 3 defenders. Just that change of direction from Marcus Rashford. Much like what he did for the Lukaku goal, that change of direction stops everybody dead or makes them move something out of the way. It really changes the landscape that's in front of him when he's able to step with the ball like this. So Mickey T knows that Lukaku's on a hat-trick, potentially, and more importantly that he's unmarked. So he just keeps the ball moving. It falls to Lukaku. Lukaku lines up, and I've replayed this back and forward a few times. I'm pretty sure this is going into the opposite cheek of the goal. I don't think Hart's even thinking about where that's going. I think it's going to be well past him before he even gets onto it. But Zabaleta gets right across there, and he gets a block in, stopping an absolute certain goal. That's definitely going in. So those counters, and that one of where Rashford gets it, that's 16 seconds from when the header is won in the box to Lukaku taking a shot. 16 seconds, quick transition. We didn't see that when Zlatan was the guy leading the line. Zlatan wouldn't have made it to get into the box at the other end in 16 seconds the way Lukaku just did. And the same for the first goal. It was a quick counter-attack that we was able to do. Actually quite reminiscent of what we saw. Who was it against? Was it Manchester City in pre-season, where you saw a counter-attack and you saw Mkhitaryan with the ball. Lukaku was dragging someone over. There was somebody on the left-hand side. I can't remember who that was. And Rashford was on the right-hand side. He plays Rashford in. Rashford buries it. Absolutely banging. I think we're going to see a lot of that from Manchester United this season. And that's what I really like. So, what can we improve on? It's difficult to say in a game like this where, one, I don't know what the pre-game objectives was, what we was looking for as a team, and two, the opposition didn't really offer anything. That's an obvious threat that we can analyse in this instance. But this is a section of the video that I'm going to keep in for going forward, because I'm sure there's going to be things that we can definitely improve on going forward. Chance creation then. So, Manchester United's chance creation, our big chances, they came from through balls in behind the defence where we can look to exploit at the back line with pace. From a simple string of passes along the back third, where we moved the ball left to right. That was also another way that we managed to find a little bit of space. West Ham's defence was very easy to manipulate in that sense, that you could get behind them and turn them. But we saw with the chance from the counter just a second ago there, where Lukaku gets a shot off, how easy it was to just knock the ball from one side to the other. There's another example of that where we take it from right to left, and the whole defence is moving along with it. They're not picking up zones, they're not picking up men, they're just all going to the ball. It's real schoolboy stuff from that West Ham defence, and that's something that I didn't really expect from a Slaven Bilic team. They need to improve on that, or they're going to get moved left and right by some of these really good attacking sides in the Premier League this season. It's poor marking that from West Ham. Chances conceded. So, how did West Ham threaten Manchester United? Well, actually, we kept them mostly at distance. A lot of their shots was from distance, and they was hopeful at best, really, to be honest. You need an absolute screamer to score from the sort of distance that they was flinging them in at. Their most dangerous was, there was a couple of them that was pretty close to us, but I think the one where they isolated Blind, they win a header around about the hour mark, dealt with by De Gea, no problem. They then got a free header from the resulting corner, which just goes completely to the left of the goal. And we got out of jail there with that one, to be completely honest, because that could have been a lot worse. That could have resulted in a goal. I think it was 2-0 at the time. So we definitely need to be shoring that up a little bit, because, you know, 2-1, now you've got a problem, haven't you? And then the final one, which is where, this is at the end of the first half, Ed Milson reacts to a loose ball just on the edge of the box, but he slams it straight at De Gea. All fairly comfortable. We didn't really feel threatened throughout the whole game. and there's not really a trend where we can say this is the sort of thing where Manchester United are going to get found out with. It was all a little bit random, so I don't think there's anything really to concern us from this game in this instance at the moment. So the average positions. Now this one, I think is worth spending a little bit of time on. Average positions. So I sort of touched on this earlier when I spoke about the formation. Here you can see Pogba, Matic, Mkhitaryan and even Lukaku are occupying the same space. Now, there's an imbalance to the team in terms of positional setup, and sometimes that's fine. Manchester United's greatest midfield for me was Scholes and Keane, Beckham and Giggs. Now, that wouldn't look balanced on an average positions map. You're going to see a slight imbalance to that. You're going to see Giggs further forward, Beckham tucked in more, and certainly more towards the halfway line. Probably Scholes ahead of Keane. Certainly wouldn't be sat next to each other, you know, in any sort of fashion like that. And sometimes it works. But if you have a look at some of these average positions here from around Europe, you'll see some of the teams, some of the best teams in Europe are smashing it in terms of their shape. And I think Manchester United lack that balance. I think this isn't great, I don't think, from Manchester United. And I think against the bigger teams, we need a better system. And that's why, again, I'm not a fan of the 4-2-3-1. I think with a 4-3-3, this can be more defined. And I think with 3-5-2, this can be more defined. We've got to look at this in Barcelona, Paris. There's several instances of some of the better teams around Europe there with real clear defined formations, real clear defined roles in the team for different players, and a real balance and shape to these as well. I think we need to get that. I think without that, Manchester United might struggle a little bit at times as we're adapting to certain positions. But again, this is my take on this. I could be completely wrong. Mourinho might really be going for a complete imbalance down one side or another. And yeah, Jose's not exactly renowned for having this balanced shape. It's more something that I really like when you see it like this. So what does it mean? Well, the lineup that Manchester United took, if actually we have a look at West Ham's was a lot more balanced, but they were shit. So obviously the shape isn't the most important thing, but I just think United's shape, we're not getting the optimal out of our team because of the shape and the average position people are taking up. So as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the formation, Pogba's congested. Pogba's far too far back for me to influence the game the way he normally does. Matic and Mkhitaryan are taking up exactly the same position. That, I think, is a bit of an issue. You can see Rashford, obviously, is slingshotting ahead of Lukaku there. And Lukaku's also a little bit far back, but I expect that from Lukaku, to be honest, as well. I think he does operate along the halfway line really well and then run the channel, as we saw with some of the counter-attacks. So I don't think that's really an issue. But I think Matic and Mkhitaryan in the same team, they're very, very, very similar. And I think if you've got Rashford or Martial on the left-hand side, they're coming in and they're creating chances for themselves more often than not. They're not really putting it in the box for someone else to get on the end of. And the guys on the right-hand side, Mkhitaryan and Matic, both do very similar things. They both like to come central and then create for other people. And we've got this weird imbalance where the two lads on the left are going in for themselves. The two lads on the right are coming in to help create from the others. Now, if we had, you know, a flip where it was 1-on-1 on each side, we'd probably have really good balance. It's just not quite meshing for us at the moment. And I think to get the best out of United, I would want to see Herrera alongside Matic and Pogba in a midfield three, freeing up Herrera truly. Freeing up Pogba truly, and Herrera can also get forward and provide the assist and a decent amount of goals as well. I think that's in his locker, or even one matter from this number 8 position if we're going to see teams come to Old Trafford. But I think you just got to get someone out of their way at number 10 a little bit. Him and Mkhitaryan, just too similar. If we had someone like could cross it, or even someone who could just run at someone from that right hand side, I think we would look a hell of a lot different. So Matic and Mkhitaryan occupying the same space, I don't really want to see that. We'll have a look next week after Swansea, how that looks against them, if those two play. Not sure that they will. I think you might see the introduction of Lingard, with it being an away game. The threat from the left. While I was watching the game live, I didn't really feel like we threatened too much from the left-hand side, but actually, we had our most successes down that left-hand side. It was a more fruitful area of the pitch for us. And we didn't really see a great deal coming straight from the wing. Now, this might be because Mkhitaryan and Matic are drifting central, so their chances are creating, or being classed as created from central areas, whereas the stuff on the left was literally coming from Rashford on the left, and I suppose the first goal probably comes in as a left-sided goal, really. I thought Blind did okay with his crossing. It wasn't perfect. He obviously likes to cross it from a bit deeper. I just want to see United get a little bit more crossing in. I think that's something that we've got to look at next week. Something that I definitely want to see from United is just a few more crosses. I think with a few more crosses, we might look like a little bit of a different team. And I didn't think we really threatened that from that. And sometimes when you got a team that comes at you the way West Ham come at you, where they just sit back, we was our most dangerous, playing balls in behind, straight line balls into the channels that got in behind that defence, and it worked for us. But I think with a better defensive team, with a better defensive organisation, because West Ham kept us quiet in that first half and they really limited us. And it was only in the second half that it really fell to pieces for them. So I think someone that's got a better defensive discipline, a better defensive organisation, might be able to keep us quiet, or at least quieter than what we saw with West Ham. And I think we've got to have another thing in our locker, and I think crosses is the other thing that's in our locker. Lukaku's very good at winning stuff in the air. We saw from the set piece where he got his second goal, he did win something and score from something in the air. Crosses is something that we can definitely utilise, and we can't always, Arsenal, walk it into the net. There's got to be another threat coming in, and that's when you start to really open teams up. If you've got a threat from the touchline, they've got to come out and mark you, and then maybe you turn the corner and you throw it in behind them along the deck. And this is what you can do when you're a team with multiple threats. If everybody knows the way that you're going to play, you're very easy to defend against. Having multiple assets and multiple ways of playing, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, that's how you manage to win games, because it's not going to go your way every single week. And I think if anyone could do that, it's Jose Mourinho. So I look forward to seeing how this looks against Swansea. I did say I was going to do a player focus, and I am going to do that. But keep letting me know who you want to do in the players. I'm thinking Pogba. I'm thinking Matic. I really want to do Lukaku, but a lot of you guys have mentioned Jones. Some of you have mentioned Mata. So I think, I don't know. Matic is definite. The other two still up for grabs. So let me know in the comments who you want to see from the player focus. And I'll use a little bit of game footage in that one to explain how those players did. I can't use it in this instance. But all of these stats are from Instat. So thank you to Instat for allowing me to use their stats. I hope this is a video that you guys enjoy. If this is something that you want to see on a weekly basis, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. And I'll see you in a bit. There's a podcast coming out with Ben on Thursday. That's on a podcast channel. So if you are new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. But the podcast with Ben is on the Stephen Howson podcast channel. It's not on this channel anymore. A few of you have asked. That's where it is. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.